So, hello, Dhruva. How are you doing today?
Hi, Sylvia. I'm doing very well. I'm super excited for this conversation.
I'm so excited that you were able to join me today, and I really want to get into learning about Luminaire and what you're doing, with how the foundation is supporting students that are moving towards careers and in research and what that means. I think it's such a big topic. Through Juárez Consulting, what I do is work with school districts, and I support them to better understand how to really enhance their college readiness and preparation for their students. And I guess what I'd like to be able to cover with you, if you are in agreement, is those opportunities. And we're talking about not only for administrators that may be listening to this, but I also want to talk to that individual student that has this fantastic idea that they want to pursue. But maybe they're ninth graders or maybe they're 11th graders. Nothing wrong with that, no shade. But they really don't know what's out there for them to be able to jump into. So a lot of what I do, especially right now, because this is the college admissions process time, I help them put together their writing in terms of what have I done, what have been my experiences, whether they're going from high school to a four-year university or college, and even community college students. We don't often talk about community college students, but if you have the opportunity to say something, I would really appreciate it. But I work with students that are going from transferring from a community college to a four-year university or college. So can we talk a little bit about how you got started, how this all kind of came to be? Because I think that story is very fascinating.
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in Chennai, which is a city in South India. And I went to a school that was academically strong, but not particularly research oriented or sort of globally
Mm.
focused. And so what that meant was growing up, research wasn't really something we talked very much about. I don't think I knew a single person who had a PhD. And I got really lucky because I did a lot of competitive debate in high school, and through that I was starting to explore all sorts of super interesting topics, like why are some countries poor and other countries not, what causes technological innovation. And I decided that I wanted to keep digging deeper into these topics, and so ended up applying to universities in the US. Got lucky enough to go to Harvard to do a bachelor's degree in economics. But even at Harvard, I remember knocking on the doors of professors, freshman year, my sophomore year, trying to get access to
Mhm.
research opportunities, only to be told, you're literally a freshman. What background do you have to help? And I think I ended up doing a research program the summer after my sophomore year that blew my mind. The fact that there were people whose full-time job was to think about how the world works, try to figure out theories to make it better, and that there were other people who would then listen and respond and engage with them was so exciting to me. I ended up applying to a master's degree and then a PhD, and currently in the process of finishing up my PhD at Oxford in the UK. And so many years later, I started talking to a friend of
Fantastic.
mine who had done that research program with, and we realized that we would have loved to have that sort of opportunity in high school. And that's where Lumiere began, with the goal of making high quality research opportunities available for talented and ambitious students from around the world.
That's fantastic because I can't tell you how many students I talk to that have these stories to tell. And I'm first generation Mexican descent. My parents, both my parents, are from Mexico. So a lot of the things that I had to educate myself about my higher ed education was a lot myself, doing it myself and figuring it out. And quite honestly, having individuals tell me that I was aspiring for something too lofty, that I shouldn't be applying to a certain university, and I eventually got admitted by that university. It's world renowned, but I have to say that it does something to you, and often it's talked about, that imposter syndrome, that opportunity to say, I have this idea, I don't know how to do it, and then on top of it, I don't know where to go to try and get it done. Am I good enough to do it? So I think for me, you're providing the foundation's providing something so exquisite for these times of innovation, for these times of anyone can really put their mind to something and apply it to what we need in our society, in our community. So when you're looking at your applications, because now this is your application period, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So when you're looking at your applications, what is it that you're looking for to that kind of stands out to you as an admissions a former admissions officer? I can tell you what I know stands out for an individual in the admissions process to get into a university.
Yeah.
So for your program, I'm sure you have a different take
Yeah.
than perhaps what someone like
Absolutely.
myself might be looking at or supporting students with.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, and we're really looking for three things. The first thing we're looking for is, has the student put some thought into what area they want to do research in? So if a kid is super conflicted between music and history and physics, that's a hard student to for them to do a research project, because they're still figuring out what is it that I'm curious about, that I'm interested in. So the first step is that they need to pick one of those things. The second thing that we're looking for is some sort of demonstrated interest or engagement with that field. So that doesn't mean they need to have done research before. That doesn't even mean they need to have taken classes in that particular subject before. But it does mean that they're able to show, this is something I'm curious about. This is something I'm excited to learn more about. I spend hours reading articles about this topic. Every time this comes up in the news, I get excited and I tune into that a little bit more. I've read, I've done these online courses. I've read these books about it, so that they can show that this is an area they're genuinely excited about and something that they want to dig
Mm-hmm.
deeper into. And the final thing is work ethic and drive. Research is hard; it takes time, and we need
Mm-hmm.
students who have thought about how this fits in with the other obligations they have, and how they'll make the time needed to devote to this.
And so, how many do you select in terms of cohorts? How large is your cohort when you select?
Great question. Cohorts vary widely. Summer cohorts tend to be a lot larger. The fall, winter, and spring cohorts tend to be a bit smaller, and it really varies year on year and cohort on cohort.
Now, is this something that a student will do 50-50 virtual in person? Is it 100% virtual? Like,
Yeah.
how do you connect, and what is actually done once a student is selected? What actually happens in the process of this particular program?
Yeah. So the process is pretty straightforward. Students apply through a written application that's online. We then do a screening interview with them. We then let them know about the decision, whether they're in or not, if they've applied for financial aid, if they've received financial aid or not, and how much financial aid they have received. And then we match them with a mentor. And this is why the program is fully virtual. Is we
Mhm.
have students who've done the program from more than 40 different countries at this point, and our mentors are all PhD students or postdocs at top research universities in the US and the UK. And so what that means is uh, you get this incredible matching of super high potential students from around the world with high quality mentors in areas where they're doing really cutting edge work. And then over the course of 12 weeks, the student and the mentor are meeting week on week. And the mentor helps the student go from exploring the topic area that they're interested in to picking a specific research question and then writing a 15 to 20 page paper in that field. So the idea is that the student is driving the project and sort of doing the reading and the thinking and the writing, and the mentor is there almost as a driving instructor, helping them figure out sort of where to go and giving them feedback and pointing them in the right direction.
And I have to tell you that the mentorship part of it was really what was fascinating to me
Yeah.
on a different level, because now you have individuals who are, and my husband works with researchers, so I understand the time constraints. I understand the the uh, they're so concentrated in what they're trying to accomplish themselves, to take time to then turn to the next generation, to me, is fascinating, because here are individuals who are tasked with trying to move us forward in technology and engineering and science in so many different realms, but yet still taking the time to support those who are up and coming, if you will. How do you decide which mentors, like how does that invitation go out to mentors?
Yeah, it's a tricky process because we have to reach out to mentors and interview them and get them on board before applications open. So we have to model and try to figure out what areas do we think students will be interested in come winter, come spring, come summer, and then do outreach to PhD students and postdocs in these areas most of them say, you know what, this sounds like an amazing opportunity, but I'm busy with work, whatever else. And then there's some people who say this actually sounds like something I do want to give my time and energy to, and so then they respond. We then interview them, and sort of they then fill out an application, and through all of that, we try and identify mentors who fulfill a few different criteria. A, mentors who are obviously experts in their fields and really good at what they do. Second is mentors who can effectively communicate what they know to younger students, who are clear, who students can engage with. And then finally, mentors who really care about and are passionate about mentorship. So one of our favorite questions to ask in the interview process is to ask these PhD students who a mentor is that matters to them, and why that mentor matters to them. And watching their faces
Oh.
light up when they talk about that one high school teacher who looked out for them and sparked an interest in them, or a PhD supervisor who makes the time for them and engages with them not just as researchers but as people, is incredible. And you can see when someone wants to then create that kind of opportunity for the next generation of researchers, and it's that spark that we're really looking for in our mentors.
And I think that we underestimate the fact that there's individuals who are in the STEM field that really do care for students and want to see that progress.
Yeah,
Obviously, they're in a progressive field where they're on the cutting edge of these things, that they want to make sure that there's a generation that's following that. So I think that
that's
that's
right.
fantastic. For students that are listening, I think this really highlights leadership in a very undefined way, where you're taking charge of something that may be very unique, and this, you can stand out when you're applying to not only your undergraduate, but also, I would argue, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the your master's programs and your PhD programs. So you're really setting the groundwork for those opportunities as you advance your higher education, and the interest that you have in a particular field. The other thing, which is unassuming, is the creativity component. How fascinating that as a student now, your creativity really is going to be highlighted with your innovation and how you're moving forward with a particular topic. Not being afraid of focusing on one thing. Right now, I think it's about choices and options, but there's some students out there that this would really fall nicely with because they're
Yeah.
so focused in what they want to do. The last thing is for students, when you're talking about how you're bettering your community, this particular opportunity here can really help that topic that you have and how it's going to be contrasted in society, in your backyard, or maybe in the nation, and as we're talking here, in the world, that really can make an impact. So as our last kind of words that you can say of encouragement, because I do talk to students who are currently in the application process, what is some bits of advice that you have for students, as now you've gone through the PhD level and almost complete, which I'm sure you will? What piece of advice would you give to those that are starting now, and really very intimidated about sharing about themselves and where they're from?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing I would say is that I've come across far too many students who say that there's nothing that excites them. They're not clear about what they're passionate about. They feel like they haven't done anything. And I genuinely think that is not true of anyone unless you've been living in a rock and under a rock and haven't done anything. You have spent the last 14, 15, 16 years doing things, and you have preferences. There are things that interest you and excite you, even if you don't think they're academic or legitimate. Think about when you're on Instagram, which TikToks or reels catch your eye when you're skipping through the news. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that interests you when you look at your own human body or outer space? What is it that makes you go, I don't quite understand that? And then use all of those things that you have seen, that you have done, that you have thought about, to try and figure out what is it that excites you and motivates you. And that I think is the first step to recognizing your interests and passions, and then building on that through research, through academic opportunities, through internship opportunities, is how you successfully, I think, make develop and build a passion and a strength, and I hope that all of you get the opportunity to do that.
I think that's fantastic advice because, I often say it, that everybody has something that they can provide and talk about. But coming from you, the younger, the accomplishments that you have, being a founder of this particular project, I think is important also to recognize. Please, anything that Juarez Consulting can do, please let us know. We're really supportive and really appreciative of your time today. And this is a fantastic project that I hope will continue on and you find great success, continued success.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate all the work that you guys do. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at contact@lumiere.education. And looking forward to any questions you'll have.